What does this mean? Hey, Lance.
So how was your? So fun.
I've never seen that.
We all wanted to shut down fossil
I've never seen that.
pollution.
Come here.
In my mind,
I know Ben's gone.
it's the fight
Yeah, he's in Vegas.
pollution is the environment with controlled pharmacy. A lot of inaction. Polluting. Listen, I used to, when I was a commissioner, we used to take the environmental news, and it was certainly a sign of fake. And it was interesting because all of this stems from the Kabuto calm in Japan.
It's okay.
574 attendees.
I've never seen it on there.
Okay, it's a few minutes past 5, and we do have a quorum of the city council present, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here tonight. Appreciate you being here. We'd like to begin the meeting with introductions. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present from the council tonight Councilman Jarrett Wake, Councilman Denny Drake, Councilwoman Krista Hinton, and Councilwoman Lena Mathis. We will excuse Councilman Shakespeare, who is out of town today. He may try to get on Zoom, but we don't have Zoom open, right?
I didn't send him the link. I didn't know.
Nobody there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and begin the meeting with an opening ceremony and pledge of allegiance. We've asked Councilwoman Hinton to lead us in that. And then the opening comments will be offered by Michelle King from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and St. George Interfaith Council, so welcome. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be gathered today for this Santa Clara City Council meeting. We are grateful for the freedoms that we have living here in this country, the freedom to gather, the freedom of religion. We are grateful to live in this community, this pristine area. Pray that we may, as citizens, keep it as such. We also are grateful for the uniqueness that is here, and pray that we'll preserve that. We're grateful for the law enforcement officers, the first responders, the healthcare workers, the teachers in this area, that they will be blessed for their efforts to keep us safe and to teach our children. We are grateful for the families that live here and pray that they will be taught good values in their home. They can strengthen this community as they grow. We pray for the seniors who live here, that they will find all the help that they need and that no one will go without in this community. We pray that there will be enough work. We are grateful that it is a safe place to live, and we pray that we may all do good, contribute, work together for the benefit of all, feel at home here. And we also pray for civility and camaraderie among this group and between the council and the citizens. We are so grateful for all that we have, and we ask thee for these blessings and thank thee for all the many that thou hast bestowed upon us. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, council, conflicts and disclosures. Does anyone have a conflict of interest that they'd like to disclose, anything regarding tonight's agenda?
I need to disclose on, let me see which item it is. Item B3, that the company I am employed with, I am the account officer for one of the bids on that item.
Okay, so noted. Any other conflicts, council? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the working agenda. We have no public hearing scheduled for tonight. On the consent agenda, council, you have approval of the claims and minutes. the minutes from the October 25th, 2023 regular city council meeting, the October 25th executive session, and then the claims through November 8th. And then the calendar of events, we have a work meeting next week on the 15th. The November 22nd regularly scheduled meeting has been canceled because of the Thanksgiving holiday the next day on the 23rd. And the city offices will be closed the 23rd and the 24th. Is there any question on the consent agenda, council? Any question on the claims or the minutes? If there's no question, I would look for a motion.
I move that we approve the claims and consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Krista and a second by Lena to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any question on that motion, council? Let's do roll call vote, money item. Lena?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-0. Thank you, council. Moving down to item B1 under general business, we have, probably the most exciting subject that we're going to have this year, the audit presentation. Welcome back, Steve Palmer from Hinton Burdick. Hopefully you've got good news for us, Steve.
I always have good news for you, Mayor. And thank you. I know that you look forward to this meeting. You probably couldn't sleep last night. We were so excited. But thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity that you give me to come and present on the audit of the financial statements that we conduct each year. There's a PowerPoint presentation here, and I understand Brock will be driving. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks,
We just
Brock.
have it in PDF tonight.
That'll work just fine, thank you. So we recently completed the fiscal year 2023 audit. If you'll advance to the next slide, Brock. Each time we do an audit, there's a number of reports that we issue. The first being the most significant, the independent auditor's report. And it's within this report where we express our opinion on the city's financial statements and whether or not they are presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles and whether they are materially correct. I'm pleased to report that we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the city's financial statements. The second report that we issue is a report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. And within this report, there are several different levels of findings that we can issue, the most significant being a material weakness. One of lesser significance is a significant deficiency. I'm pleased to report that we did not have any findings in either of these categories this year. I'd also like to note this is the first year since I've been conducting the audit that there haven't been any findings here. We typically have had a finding pertaining to audit entries. In other words, as we go through and perform our audit work, we'd find adjustments that needed to be posted to the city's books in order for the financial statements to be materially correct. Through Debbie's hard work and the city's partnership with Polaris, we were able to eliminate that finding this year. So congratulations, that's great. The last report that we issue is on the city's compliance with state matters as they pertain to finance. There was one minor finding here. The city exceeded budget in the general government area, but not by a large margin. But nonetheless, we had to issue a finding there. Let's take a look at the city's finances, kind of from the 10,000 foot level, if you will. We won't get into the minute details, but we'll look at it from a high level. The net position of this city was just under 50 million at the end of the fiscal year. That's if you were to take all the city's assets, subtract the liabilities, that residual amount being the net position. And over time, whether this number increases or decreases is a good indicator as to whether or not the city's financial health is improving or deteriorating. So let's see how the city did this year. So the net position for the city as a whole increased by about $5 million in fiscal year 2023. So the net position of the governmental activities, that's pretty much everything outside of the utilities, increased by 1.7 million. And the net position of the business type activities, that would be the utilities, increased by about 3.5 million. Let's look at some trends of the city over the past 5 years. This is the general fund of the city. That top line, the blue line being assets, the gray line being equity and the orange line being liabilities. You can see that overall there's been a few dips and things bounce around a little bit as you would expect, but overall those amounts and those trends have been very consistent from year to year. And here's the cash trend for the general fund. The top line being the total cash and the bottom line being the unrestricted cash. And let's look at the water fund. The top line being the operating revenues and the bottom line being the operating expenses. And what can I say other than everything got really expensive during fiscal year 2023? So you can see that expenses went up quite a bit and revenues were largely flat. And you can see the cash trend there as well. Cash remained fairly consistent, and unrestricted cash increased a little bit too, which is positive. And here's the sewer fund. You can see there's still a good margin between operating revenues and operating expenses, with both increasing. And here's the cash trend. Again, the top line being total cash and the bottom line being the unrestricted cash that could be used at your discretion. And the electric fund, I think this is the fund that had the most significant change from last year. Revenues went up a lot and so did expenses. I know you're very aware that the cost of power in particular went up a lot, and I know the city took action and made the power cost adjustments to the citizens' power bills in order to meet the demands of the increased costs. So despite those increased expenses, revenues went up as well. The city reacted well to those changes in market conditions. And here's the cash trend for the electric fund. Again, the top line being unrestricted total cash and the bottom line being unrestricted cash. And last but not least is the stormwater fund. You can see that in 2019, there was a big spike in revenues. That's when that FEMA money came in from the landslides. So there was a big spike in revenues there, and then things normalized thereafter. And the expenses have been very consistent from year to year. And then the cash for the stormwater fund. Top being total cash, bottom being unrestricted cash. I'd like to express my thanks to all those that helped with the audit. When we come in, we ask for a lot of information and ask a lot of questions. I know it's not easy on the city staff. They have to perform all of their regular duties and respond to all of our inquiries. And they're always so good to work with and just absolutely go out of their way to help us get our work done that we need to do. And I just wanted to thank them. Brock and Debbie in particular, everybody, but those two in particular seem to take the brunt of it. I wanted to thank them. And with that, we'll go to that last slide. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to field those tonight. And also, if at any time through the year, if you have any questions, there's my contact information. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help wherever I can.
Great, thank you, Steve. Council, any questions for Steve? It's nice, we got
Great.
a clean one.
You got a clean one.
So thank you, sir,
Okay.
appreciate your good work.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, item B2 is amendment to the city manager's contract. Brock, the council, if you recall at the work meeting, we talked about this a little bit. There's a provision, I think, being amended. Brock?
I'm actually,
Or
I'm
Matt?
going to take this one, Mayor. As the council's aware, because this has been discussed before, Brock asked for the council to take a look at some proposed changes to his contract, prompted mainly by some things we've seen happen in other places around the country with city managers and, concerned about having I think, an appropriate amount of job security. Brock has made some proposals. I've worked with Brock on those and proposed some revisions of my own to implement them. And just as a refresher, the main change that is being proposed to Brock's contract here is that if the city wanted to make the decision to terminate Brock involuntarily as the city manager without cause, so this only affects the scenario where it would be a termination without cause, that we've put in some protective language that could only happen after the full city council and mayor had been seated for at least 6 months. The idea behind this is that it's an attempt to kind of depoliticize the city manager's position. So that if there was some kind of a controversy in the city, we have a new member of the council or a new mayor before an involuntary termination could be made by the city council, that they would have to wait until 6 months after they had all been seated. That's the only change that's being proposed. Again, this has no effect on termination for cause. So if there was some issue with the city manager that the city recognized and felt there was a need to take action because of that issue, that could still be done, and this would not limit that. So that's the proposal that's before you, and be happy to have any feedback.
Council, do you have any questions for Matt relative to the proposed changes? Like I said, we did talk about this in the work meeting.
Do we need to note that it does take a unanimous vote, since that was one of the additions?
Yep, good point. Yep, it does require a unanimous vote also. And again, that's only for involuntary termination without
Right.
cause.
Yeah, right there.
Any other questions, council? Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, then I would look for a motion regarding amendment to the city manager's contract.
I move that we approve the proposed amendment to the city manager's contract as proposed.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Denny and a second by Jarrett to approve the amendment to the city manager's contract as presented. Any question on that motion, council? This is an agreement. Roll call vote. Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-0. Thank you, council. Item number 3 is discussion and action to consider approval of a lighting bid upgrading the original fluorescent and incandescent lights to LEDs throughout the city hall, main level, upper level, museum, exterior lights, and parking lot lights. Cody?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Yes, just as the description outlines, I've reached out to 2 contractors, one being the contractor that came in the first of the year, mid-year, and upgraded the lighting control systems. That was PR Electric. They offered a bid to come in and change out the fixtures, upgrading to LED. And then I also reached out to a number of local electricians and had one respond. So Ants Electric was the responding contractor. I might point out that they had missed a couple lights outside, the flag lights, the sign light, statue lights. So there is a discrepancy in the cost on the agenda of this $61,811. That total would be $67,183 with the changes to ANS's estimate. Currently, throughout the building, we have a number of fixtures that are down. I've spoke on this before when I introduced the lighting control upgrade. It's either we start buying new ballasts to put new life into our old fluorescent fixtures, or we take the leap and jump into LED lights. So that's what I have opted to do, is just move forward and transform the whole building to LED. Do you have any questions for me regarding any of the bids?
Well, it seems to be a significant difference between the 2 bids that we have. Have you reviewed to make sure it's apples for apples?
I have reviewed. They're using the same fixture, the Sylvania R2. Well, the cans are RT8s, RT6, RT10, and then for that parking lot lights, it's the same bulb to transfer over to the LED. The big difference is PR Electric, as I mentioned, comes out of northern Utah. They want to come down and do it in phases. They don't have the manpower right now, and with their workload, they can't squeeze it in to where they could come down and just dedicate. You see, Ents he didn't allot a time frame for manpower, but Ents said 200 hours. So he will be here a while, and the company that came down to do lighting control, they spent 3 weeks with us. He says, I just can't do it. He says, can you break it up into phases? And I think that's part of the significant difference. Otherwise, it reverts back to he has plenty of work.
Well, as I review it, it looks to me like it's, we go with the lesser of the two bids and save us a lot of money.
And I spoke with them on their availability. Brandon Ents with Ents Electric, and he stated that he's probably 3 to 4 weeks out. Of course, he hasn't ordered the materials. Once he orders materials, he's still 3 to 4 weeks out on being able to provide manpower. But that's well within our range. We can work with him on that.
Cody, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Cody, am I remembering this right? Does this include like an upgraded system for the lighting as well, for like dimming and timing the lights?
No, that system has been installed. PR Electric, we awarded them that bid earlier in this fiscal year.
Okay.
And
We
so
already have
that is in. One of the differences, Councilman Drake, is the dimming. This room originally had dimming, and the banquet room has a dimming option. But there's so many lighting options in this room with the cans, the sconces, the chandeliers. I don't feel that we need to move that way in offering dimming for the council or the banquet, because you can just shut down chandeliers or cans and get the same effect. If you want to move forward with that, then you can see that upgrade at the bottom of PRs for $4,500, and he'd have to run a dim control wire for that installation. I don't know that that's necessary. I've been here a short time, but no one's requested to dim the lights yet.
Let's do it right now.
Start throwing those switches on. Any
Yeah,
other questions, Council?
I would just say it's always nice to award to a local contractor when we can.
For sure.
And it should improve our energy costs too.
Yes, and with the new lighting control system, you can throttle those back from 100% down to 70%. That's part of the lighting. That's one of the features inside of the lighting control system. So above the savings with LED, then you can also trim back your usage by percentage.
Oh, great. One more question. Are we able to change out these bulbs when they need to be, or do we have to have an electrician do that on the LED?
We will be able to change them out.
Okay.
On the ballast light, the fluorescent lights, they will come in and rewire and bypassing the ballast, and then the transducers are built into the LED bulbs. So we would just buy the like bulb and be able to change those out. So maintenance would be easy.
Great. I'm done, sorry.
Cool. Anything else? Okay, I'd look for a motion, Council.
With the cost exception from 61 to 67,183, and that is including the museum.
I would move that we accept the Ents bid for the electrical lighting at $67,183. Is that correct?
Yes.
And award that bid as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Denny and a second by Krista to award the lighting bid to Ents Construction in the amount of $67,183. Any question on that motion, Council? This is a money item. Roll call again. Lena?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Council. Item number 4, this is discussion and action to consider approval of ordinance 2023-22, an ordinance enacting a temporary land use regulation to allow for a study and potential adoption of new or revised design standards for the historic district zone. Matt?
Yes, council, Jim and I were directed to look at the possibility of implementing a temporary land use regulation to facilitate the review and study and potential adoption of new design standards for the historic district downtown. And so we dug into this and looked at options and how this might best be implemented. As you're all aware, a temporary land use regulation can only be enacted for a period of 180 days max. And so what you have proposed before you tonight is a regulation that essentially is most people would refer to it as a moratorium on new land use approvals in the area of the historic district overlay zone. Now the way that we decided to implement this is looking at the role of the Heritage Commission, which of course was created in part to advise the Planning Commission and the City Council on land use applications in the historic district overlay zone. And looking at their responsibilities, one of the things that they were empowered to do was to essentially act as a design review committee. And that's when these design guidelines essentially are applied, is when they go through that review process on any land use application that is subject to their review. And so the way that we put this proposed ordinance together was essentially we have said that for 180 days there will be no applications. There will be no applications considered for land use approvals in that overlay zone that would require the review of the Historic District Commission, the Historic Commission. Excuse me, I'm using different terms. Technically, it's the Santa Clara Heritage Commission is what I'm referring to. So in doing that, basically that covers, again, any land use applications. It includes new construction. It includes exterior design changes. It includes any kind of demolition or relocation of improvements in the historic district. It includes changes to any historic building, and it also includes construction or modification of any sign in the historic district. So all of those things there will be a moratorium on any review or approval of any of those applications for a period of 180 days to allow the city to then do the work of looking at the design guidelines and considering whether we want to adopt new ones. Mayor, I don't know if you want me to talk about what we anticipate that process to be, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. We've discussed creating an advisory committee to work with the Heritage Committee to provide some additional citizen input as they go through this process. And I think it's going to be primarily developing new commercial architectural and design guidelines that would affect commercial development within the downtown. I've reached out to a number of citizens to serve on that committee. They've all accepted, and I appreciate their willingness to work with the city staff and the Heritage Committee. We've included 5 new that haven't been associated with the Heritage Committee in the past. David Levitt, Kelly Graff, Penny Willard, Andrea Whitwer, and Cherise Smith, that I think represent they've shown up at some of the public hearings and participated in some of the petitions relative to the downtown. They've expressed an interest and a willingness to work. Several of them have businesses, several of them live there, so have undeveloped property that whatever this committee comes up with is going to be impacting. Some live in the valley, some live in the heights, and so it's a mix that I feel really good about. Mimi McKenna has also agreed to work with this group, as well as Mandy Gubler. And so there is some members of the existing committee that are involved in the new group, as well as Shelley Harris from the Planning Commission. So we'll have a Planning Commissioner that'll also be in this group. We've worked out an arrangement with Kim Campbell, who is an architect in St. George. He's kind of retiring from his practice, and he's agreed to work with us on an hourly rate to consult with this group as they develop the architectural and the design guidelines. He has a lot of experience working with the city of St. George. He's on the state
Historic
historic preservation. So I've worked with Kim for 35 years, and he's a very professional architect that kind of understands the special needs, I'll call them, of historic district and historic preservation. I think it'd be a good job there for us, as well as Jim from the city staff, and we'll bring in Matt Entz and some others as necessary as they go through the process. I anticipate that this group will be meeting right after the Thanksgiving holiday to begin the deliberation and really get into it after the Christmas break, but they can be started and doing some of the research and everything going through the holiday season. So we have 180 days. If you approve the pending ordinance tonight, we have 180 days or it will expire. And if we haven't changed our code by that point in time, it just reverts back to the existing code that's on the books.
That's correct.
And so it'll happen fairly quickly as cities move. And I was pleased that the members accepted. And so that's kind of the process. Jim will be reporting to council as it proceeds through there. And hopefully we'll see some draft information. The meetings that they have will be public meetings. When I say public meetings, it's not a public hearing per se, but a public meeting where citizens can come and listen to what's being said and offer some input that way. The process will go through the public hearing process as it is required by ordinance before it can be adopted. And so, so anyway, if this is something that you guys want to proceed with, there's been some discussion about it from the council wanting to take a little bit of time and review the existing standards and come up with some new commercial design standards. And so, any questions for me or Jim? Jim's familiar with the process. He's kind of worked through it, and Matt as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Just a comment, I think it's time that we redo that. It's been a long time, and to look at those design standards in the areas downtown, I think it's very important and valuable.
And I'll just add, I think this will avoid a lot of fights. So
Yes.
I think it's a good idea. And plus it kind of puts us on a timeline so developers know this isn't an endless thing. We will get something figured out quickly.
I agree. I appreciate the people who are willing to serve and do it. And did we get a lot of additional feedback from our last meeting through email afterwards or anything when we asked for more feedback?
I haven't received any.
No more? Okay.
Me neither.
So I imagine there will be a lot of feedback coming over the next 180 days.
That sounds great.
Would you like a motion?
I'd
Yep.
love a motion.
Before you make a motion, let me just note for the record, because this is a temporary land use ordinance, it does require that the council make what's called a finding of compelling countervailing public interest. And to that end, we've proposed some findings in the ordinance itself. And if the council has looked at those, I certainly don't need to read through them, but I would be glad to if you want me to. But the idea is that the city council is making some specific findings regarding the importance of this process for the, the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the community. And we've identified some of that reasoning in the findings. So,
Matt, do you want them read as part of the motion, or do you want us just to identify the compelling and countervailing?
yeah, I think if you just state in your motion, that it's based on the finding of compelling countervailing public interest, and you could just reference the findings in the ordinance. The one last thing I would say is I think the version of the ordinance that you got in your packet actually says it's for 6 months. But since then I've double checked the statute, and it's actually stated in terms of days, so it's actually 180 days. So the one that the mayor will actually be signing, assuming you approve it, will be 180 days, not 6 months. Just to make that clear.
So I can make the motion. I'll make the motion that we approve ordinance 2023-22, enacting a 180-day temporary land use regulation with the findings that are listed in the compelling and countervailing public interest in the resolution as presented.
Second?
Got a motion by Lena and a second by Krista to approve the,
When does it start? Can I ask that question?
well, it starts right now,
Like it was now?
but you can't ask that question, but it starts right now.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, this is a motion by Lena, second by Krista, to approve ordinance 2023-22. This is an ordinance enacting temporary land use regulation to allow for study and potential adoption for new and revised design standards for the historic district zone. Council has found that there is a compelling countervailing public interest in temporarily regulating development applications in the historic district zone as set forth in the ordinance. It's for a period of 180 days beginning now. I think that was it. Any question on that motion, council? Let's do roll call. It is an ordinance. Lena?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Ayes have it. The ordinance passes. Thank you, council. I'll need Chris just to make that one change on the date, the 6 months to 180 days.
I'm sending it to you right now, Chris.
You can do it.
I'm sending it to you,
We can
yeah.
get that signed. Okay, reports, mayor and council reports. Lena? Ben's not here.
I don't think I have much other than to just make sure you're still remember that the Sama Classa Bend program is coming up. So put that on your calendar, December 6th, 6:30. The posters have been made. They'll start going up. You'll see the advertisements on all of our social media pages, and hopefully the leaves will fall so Gary can start putting up lights. Great.
Say that again, Gary.
They've got to do a little tree trimming on that tree, just get some of the little sucker limbs off, and then they'll start decorating that probably next week.
Okay.
Awesome. Our youth council, we met last week. Huge thanks to Chief Parker. We had a full council. We went out and did public safety evening. They got to visit the fire station, get a little bit educated on all of our public safety and what that entails within the city. They got to tour the station, a fire truck, get in an ambulance. They thought it was just the best. I have had the best feedback from our youth council. So a huge thank you to Chief Parker and Division Chief Fold, because they were the ones who are our escorts for the evening. And it was great. And I think that is, I don't have LPC till next week. So that's my report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lena. Krista?
I just wanted to let you all know, if you don't already, that this week, join Follow the Flag as they honor veterans in Snow Canyon Park. They will have the largest flag in the country, I think. Will hang between two parts of the canyon, and we'll be there for a week. So they will unveil that this Saturday as part of a Veterans Day program. Sounds really cool. And also, I attended the Westside Baptist Church 30th anniversary. with Pastor Greg White and his wife Mary Ellen, and Pastor's been here to share a prayer with us before, and they do some really cool things in our community. It's a real great asset to have them here with us, and they just appreciated that we support them and allow them to come and share their comments with us often. So that's my report.
Thanks, Krista. Dana?
We had a meeting with the Solid Waste District reviewing the bids for the new waste station and the new cell that needs to be built. We've basically filled up the first cell, which was a 50-year life, and we'll be developing a second cell for the next 50 years, we hope. In the process, there's 3 bids that have been presented, starting with, we'll review those again. We reviewed them, but they started at $6,100,000, went to $6,900,000. And we've asked for some clarification. We'll be meeting again on the 13th to review those bids and go through the process of deciding on what to do. Other than that, nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Jared?
I haven't been to any meetings or anything. They're all coming up in the next few weeks. I have gotten some more comments about the noise from food trucks near my home. They're in the Pioneer Parkway area, and so staff is working on some regulations, and they've been there looking and even testing the sound, the decibel level, things like that. So I think we'll get to a good spot on that fairly soon.
Yeah, I think Jim's got ordinance language that's going to go to Planning Commission on the food truck next month.
It's actually going to come to you guys next week.
Oh,
It'll be on as a discussion item next week, and it's actually city code. It's not land use. It's not Title 16 or 17.
so
It's
it's
Title
just
9.
us.
It would be just you, but a discussion next Wednesday evening.
Okay, good deal.
Can I ask a question? I saw they moved it over towards middle of the parking lot. Has that helped?
I believe so. I haven't got any complaints since then, but there's another one that parks, and they actually put their generator like almost against the fence of the neighbor right there. And so I think having just an ordinance will help a lot for code enforcement to say, hey, it's got to be a certain distance away. It's too loud. Move it to the other side of your truck. Things like that.
Lena, we talked about this today, actually. I think Jim and Brock went out and looked at where that is, the new location, did some measurements and stuff, and the ordinances we're going to bring to you will actually allow it to be in that particular location.
Okay.
So
That's all I have.
Community Education Channel. Is there, Mayor Hart said you were going to ask me something about that, or is that ready to talk about yet?
No, our last meeting was a closed meeting, so we're still working out the details of the future of the CEC.
Okay, all right. And anything else? Okay, the Mayor's Association meeting was postponed until next Tuesday. I've got a meeting with Sheriff Brooksby, or he's presenting to us, so I don't know, sometimes that's not the best news when the sheriff wants to talk to the mayor. The Flood Control Authority met last night and approved the budget for 2024. It does provide about $80,000 to Santa Clara to do some investigation work regarding cleaning the sediment out of the lower Tucson-Wash detention basin, the old log pond, as well as doing some erosion protection on the Santa Clara River up by Swiss Village. We're seeing some issue that way, and then also doing some vegetation removal, additional vegetation and removal to try and keep the central channel cleaned out. If you haven't driven Vineyard, you need to go drive it. Curb and gutter's down on, I don't know, 80% of it now, but you can see the base going in on phase 2, and it looks nice. I'm pleased with the way it's turning out. There's been a lot of utility conflicts and issues they've had to resolve going through the construction. You kind of anticipate that a little bit when you go into an area that's all developed out and then put the street in last. It's not the best way to do it, but their contractor's been really good to work with over there. And it is, it's going to be black soon, and that's going to be great.
They have a paving date of, I think, November 21st, 22nd, 23rd. They're giving a 3-day window, just pending weather, but that's, so, the dates they gave us.
That'll be good. They've also been working on phase 3 with the water line and working on some of the preliminary design on phase 3. Phase 3 goes from basically here down to Old Farm Road. That'll be the finishing phase for Vineyard. There's all kinds of issues we're seeing with some of the right-of-way, in particular with the fuel storage tanks that are out in the middle of the road, and a bunch of other things. So Dustin's working hard with the engineers to come up with the best fit down through there. So that's underway, and construction is underway on the BMX. You haven't been by that, the BMX parking lots, that construction has started too. So, is the skate park, is it still there, is it gone? I know they're closed. It's gone, okay. I figured it was doomed last time I drove by it. So, but we'll find a spot for a new one. But I think, and then the work we've done on the Heritage Committee, I think that's kind of my report tonight. Any questions, council? Anything from the staff? Any pressing needs we need to be aware of? Can't wait till next week. Jim?
Briefly, for the residents that are here, some may have volunteered to be on our committee. We still need to schedule when we're going to have that kickoff meeting. We don't quite know that yet. We'll be reaching out sometime next week with a date. We have to figure that out. Probably be after Thanksgiving or 1st of December, somewhere in that window, but we don't have that date yet, but it's coming soon. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We don't need executive session tonight?
We
Or do we
do.
We do. And we need to go into executive session to discuss potential liability?
Litigation.
Okay, so council, I need a motion to go into executive session, discuss pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Lena and a second by Denny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, council. We'll go ahead and excuse everyone who's not necessary for this one. Appreciate you being here tonight.